Welcome to the Trashcats Trashcast. I'm your boy, Ricky.
I'm Steven.
Today, I am... All right, there. I didn't think about what I was going to say next. Let me take that one. Let me get a clean
That's
take
cool.
on that.
That gives us an edit, so
Yeah. All right. Also, let me hit this again. That wicked nose candy, man.
Ooh, them nose clams.
The nose.
We got nose clams.
Welcome to the Trash Cats. Welcome to the Trash. Jesus Christ. Welcome to the Trash Cats Trashcast, home of your boys. I'm Ricky.
I'm Steven.
Today we want to talk about entertainment. First,
I'm psyched for
as
this
always. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about this one too. Steven, you got any honorable mentions?
Yeah. The first of which, so cool things I've seen from this week. This first one I had seen, it came out like in 2013, but my brother just reshared it with me because he forgot he had showed it to me like 7 years ago. It's called In Shadow: Modern Odyssey. It is a short film. It's a story, but it's all art. And it's just really cool. It's all set to music. It's beautiful art. It tells a really cool story that's pretty deep. It's kind of about where we're at today in 2020. Problems with capitalism and technology, those kind of things. But the art's really cool. It reminds me a lot of the Gorillaz art style.
I noticed that too. I haven't watched the whole thing yet. You sent me the link though, and I kind of just scrolled, skimmed through it, and I definitely noticed that similarity in the art style.
Yeah,
I like it. I think it's cool.
That always makes me happy. The Gorillaz were like so influential. Their art. So that's a really good one. In Shadow: Modern Odyssey. It's on YouTube. It's 13 minutes of awesome art and music. And the other second honorable mention, I'm sending you a link. Just sent it to you.
Cool.
This artist I follow, he's one of my favorite modern artists. His Instagram handle is Pit of Bones.
Oh, this is sick.
Yeah, this piece is called Apsu Disturbing the Sweet Water. It's acrylic painting, I believe. And this guy, he just does really cool landscape paintings. But they're fantasy-esque, but they don't feel cheesy to me. They just feel like really beautiful, surreal alien landscapes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm a big fan of this dude. He's one of those artists that I wish I saw more art like this. And when I first saw his work, I was like, fuck, finally. I've been waiting to see this for a while. And I've had the chance to speak to him briefly once or twice. And he's a really cool dude. So I'm always happy to share his awesome work.
Nice. Yeah, I know what you mean by how like fantasy kind of stuff can get really cheesy, especially, some of the, I would say more like Dungeons and Dragons type of artwork, that you can only, I mean, it's not to say you can only do so much with, but someone's idea of, I guess a lot of that artwork is usually intended to, depict a character or depict a thing. So like the backgrounds kind of fall to the wayside. But he's got a lot of, gorgeous detail work.
Yeah.
And, attention to the scenery and the colors and, it's less about the subject, more about the composition.
Yeah, it's like the feeling of the place you're looking at.
Yeah.
His palettes are always great. I really like when concept art, not that his art is, but concept art in general. I really love fantasy concept art of landscape or surrounding. Like the character stuff, I'm not into that as much because it's often kind of Dungeons and Dragons, or can get cheesy a lot easier, but the landscape concept art is always so fun for me.
Agreed.
Yeah. So I thought you'd like him.
Yeah, absolutely. I just followed him.
Dope.
So I have a honorable mention this week.
Yes. And
I wanted, so this is an old thing. It's not a new thing at all. I was just saying earlier, you have all this cool newer media to bring to the table. I'm usually not finding new stuff, but this is actually a band that my dad listened to, when he was younger, and got me into when I was really young. I was probably like 10 or something when he first turned me on to this band. It's Queensryche.
I'm not familiar.
They are one of the earlier progressive concept kind of bands where they have like a story that they tell through a whole album kind of thing. The instrumentals are all like hard rock, 80s metal-ish, but it's got kind of I guess I want to say like an orchestral arrangement where it's really smart. It's well put together, good instrumentals. The lead singer is kind of fucking crazy range of his voice. But one album in particular that they kind of grew pretty crazy with was called Operation Mindcrime. And it was a formal, it was part of my formative years listening to this album. Like walking through the hallways at school, in, fourth and fifth grade, with this like in my headphones. And it's so wicked. This album is it's a guy who's like on like the fringe of society in the, late 80s, and he's, on drugs, and, he finds, an ad that's like, find your salvation, through this like televangelist kind of guy. But really, it's like a hitman for hire kind of setup that he gets involved with. They brainwash him and, make him like, he ends up going into like a trance and he murders people. And it's like this tragic.
This sounds wicked.
It's fucking evil. It's really good shit, though.
It sounds so funny. Looking at their discography, there's Operation Mindcrime 1 and 2.
Yeah, 2 came out like within the last like 20 years or so.
Okay, got 2004.
I haven't actually listened to all of that yet. I've heard bits and pieces of it, but I figured if I'm going to do it, I'm going to sit down and listen to it. And I know there were issues with the lead singer and the rest of the band, and which kind of that always sucks to hear. But they do a few different albums like that are all like an opera almost of how. Especially with dude's voice being the way it does, he, brings a lot of life to lyrics. And I grew into liking a lot of other bands that do that, like Mastodon and like Coheed and Cambria. They do, this whole stories and stuff. So that was one of the first bands that really got me dialed into like, oh, people can do that shit. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah, concept albums can go bad very easily, but when they're really interesting or beautiful, it's like it can be so fun and powerful because you're going on a journey with them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, I'm curious, when you were in 4th, 5th grade listening to this with headphones, what were you listening to it on? Were you like Walkman, iPod? Like
it was you know what? I had a shitty CD player for the longest time. And I want to say I usually worked and I bought, stuff that I had with like paper route money and stuff. But my dad had given me, this was before then because I would have been too young. I had an old shitty CD player, one of the portable ones that's still like too big to fit in your back pocket.
And it skips every 5 seconds.
Yep. I do remember this one. My dad helped me buy one. It had like an auto skip, like a 45-second skip protection thing.
Ooh.
So as long as you don't fuck it up too bad, you were good.
Dude, that's funny, man. Those were good old days. Like, I miss CDs. Like,
yeah,
I want more CDs back in my life.
It's the and I remember I had like all these, and I'm surprised that like no one, if anyone would have seen the, of course, like writing the lyrics in like my notebooks and stuff. And, like if anyone had like read any of this shit, like there's one song that like he's got to like the priest is in on it, so like he's got to murder the priest, and they tell him to kill like one of the nuns as well, but he's like in love with this nun, and like there's this whole like one of the Sweet Sister Mary is like this kick-ass song in the middle of the album, and it's this, it's like 10 minutes long or something, and it's him going through this, thing in the back of his head where like he has to do this or they're going to kill him, but like he doesn't want to kill her. So he's like, this is like the turning point of like where he has to like try to get her to like escape and like just trust him. And like the priest is fucking, raping the nuns and shit. And it's fucking brutal.
Dude, I'm psyched to check this out.
Yeah. And the other cool part about this is actually a really fun note. Like when you get to the end of the album, he's like in a mental asylum or something. And then the opening of the album is the sound of like the nurses coming to him in the hospital or whatever. So it's like, can loop continuously.
That's
and
dope.
He's like, I remember now. And then it goes into the story.
Ah, man, that's so cool. That gave me instant flashbacks to Dr. Octagon. It's kind of shit.
Oh yeah.
Man, that was my jam. And it wasn't so much that he did that, but his two biggest classic albums, in my opinion, he wrote while in a psych ward, and it's just like bananas, like crazy lyrics, just so much fun.
It was Cool Keith.
Cool Keith, Black Elvis, lost.
Yeah.
Half shark, half alligator, half man.
I know you give me you had the hookup on some those music links for me, and you burned them for me or something.
So much fun.
Definitely I'll listen to some of that shit.
Yeah, every once in a while I go back to him. That was his music. That was the first time I ever got high. I was listening to Cool Keith. So
that's a good story. That's good.
Dude, this kid.
That's original too. I don't think a lot of people also have that story.
Yeah, man, this kid I smoked with, he was a crazy dude. But we went to his place and he had like 5 TVs going with like just static channels, and he had like a strobe light and a black light going, and we're like smoking like a little tinfoil bowl, you know what I mean?
Yeah, boy.
And we're listening to Cool Keith, and he's like wearing a mask, and then like 3 hours later I realize I'm high for the first time. It's so funny. So yeah, Cool Keith special to me forever.
Nice. So without further ado,
dude, I'm psyched for this. We've been trying not to talk about it till today. So
yeah, even up in like the recording, getting everything set up, we've been kind of wanting to talk more and more about this. But the first we want to talk about movies,
yes.
A couple of them in particular. But the first one is 1917.
Yes. So this movie just came out. What was it?
It was end of last year.
Oh shit! I thought it was more recent.
I thought it was too, but the Google says 2019.
Oh, damn.
So I might be super wrong too.
God,
that's what I saw.
I've been trying to watch it for longer than I'd realized. But
Same.
My dad's birthday was like 2 weeks ago, and I always try to get him gifts like of movies because it gives us something to do together. So I got the Blu-ray of it and watched it earlier this week, and I was so excited to watch it. And oftentimes with film stuff, like I get apprehensive of a movie I'm really excited about because it's so easy to be let down, you know? And I haven't been like a big follower of the director Sam Mendes's work, so I was like, this looks awesome. I heard some good things from somebody I trusted about it, but I was still kind of like rolling the dice with it. And Watched it and just was ecstatic. It was important for me. It was just a really well done piece of art.
Yeah, I really liked it. I heard it from coworkers. Like, oh, you got to watch this movie. Actually, it was around Halloween, and we were talking about different horror movies to watch. And my goal at the time was, oh, I'm gonna watch like 3 horror movies a week, whether I'd seen them already or not. Preferably one new each week, and I did not achieve that goal at all. Work got kind of wild. But one of the ones they told me was like, it's not a horror movie, but we just watched it, and it's definitely a thriller. It gets pretty wild. Watch 1917, and I remember that they gave me a kind of brief description of it, and I remember thinking like, oh yeah, that sounds really cool. And I even remember seeing a trailer for it for something. I forget if it was a movie we went. I think it was when I went to go see The Joker in theaters. I saw a trailer for it, and I thought, oh, that might be good. I'm not usually into like historical fiction kind of stuff, is what kind of I thought it was. But then it was when, of course, when you brought it up, and you mentioned the cinematography, which absolutely outstanding,
dude, just insanely beautiful. We'll get back to that for sure. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, that was mostly it. It's like, then it was like, I was like, okay, now I definitely, now I have a reason, I have a full excuse. I have no excuse not to, especially when you were like, oh, I got it for you. We don't need to have to, do the hookup for it. But man, it's just, I'm probably going to end up buying it because it is such a good movie. I'll definitely watch it again. I'll definitely want to show it to other people.
You might be able to download it off that Vudu account.
Dude, I'll pay for it. I think it's worth it. It's one of those things like I always try to do.
But you might be able to get it free through that. I get what you're saying.
Yeah. I always love when any film piece of any kind does the thing where it's like one continuous long shot. I was just saying a minute ago before we started recording, I was watching Always Sunny in Philadelphia with my family the other day.
Dude, the restaurant episode.
Yeah, that we were watching that
yes.
one. I put it on because it's one of my favorites, both because it's, the health inspection thing, and it's so, it's an exaggerated version of, how that goes down, but it's basically, you kind of go, there's so many restaurants that I've worked at in the past where, it's the chef's job to like go talk to the health inspector and kind of chat them up and whatever, distract them while everyone else is running around like making sure labels are good and like making sure everything's kosher and, throwing away shit that ain't supposed to be there or whatever. If we got something fermenting and we don't have a, thing for it, you gotta, put it in the back or get rid of it. But they do such a good job of it. And it's like the entire, the portion at the beginning where they don't do it, but then like once they get into the shot,
yeah,
I'm sitting here thinking the whole time, like, how are these people not fucking dying laughing? How is it possible that they're not
1917 of Sunny?
Yeah, of Sunny, yeah. How are these people not fucking busting out laughing? And that's like a skill in itself. And then 1917, if you're really paying attention, you can see where they could splice into different things, but they do it in such a way that it's definitely not obvious.
And there's a lot of times I noticed they had opportunities to take cuts and they didn't, or it didn't appear they did, because it, like you said, maybe at the beginning there were, a couple shot transitions, but then like the rest of the movie, you're just locked in following this soldier's journey, and it's just like you are along for the ride. It makes it that point of view and perspective, it just makes it so much more real than a typical like older style of cinematography.
It's such it makes you feel like you're there, and that's the other. It brings it to reality. So like there is a point where the screen goes black,
dude. But that shot Oh my
It's
god.
so well done. It's like it's the only time where like they put a break in that's an obvious break in, filming, but it's so well done and it's so much part of the scene and what's going on that it's like it's still there. It's still, you're with it.
So that particular moment, I want to spend some time on.
Same here, because
Okay,
coming
we'll
out
come
of
back.
coming out of that was my favorite part of the whole movie.
Hands down, hands
Yeah.
down. I knew you were gonna think that, and I was like, before you watched it, I was like, I want to say something about it, but I was like, I know he's gonna feel the same. I was like, we're gonna have to spend some time on it.
Like I was, in that moment.
Magical.
Yeah, it's yeah. We'll definitely we can double back to it, but it's
beautiful. So, yeah. Before I guess we'll start at the beginning, but I did want to mention it. Did you watch Birdman, the movie?
No.
Okay, that was
I considered watching it, and because well, then I learned it wasn't about Harvey Birdman,
and that's disappointing. Yeah,
exactly.
Of course,
it wasn't a superhero movie about the Birdman.
I only watched it because I thought it was. I thought this was all leading to. Dude, that movie was like a big deal at the time because it wasn't all shot in one shot. I believe there were cuts in it, but it was all, the final movie was all edited to look like one continuous shot. No, not two shots, just one shot, the whole movie. And that was like the first time it had ever been done at that level, that successfully, that smoothly. And that was a big deal. And I think that was like the movie was good. It definitely isn't for everyone. It was kind of dark and sad, but it had its amazing moments. But I think that movie really, to a lot of other future directors, I think it served as like a proof of concept that you could do movies. It didn't have to be the whole movie as one shot, but that this new era of filmmaking could do these amazing cinematic moves through a film.
Yeah.
And I think 1917 was just like the perfect expression of that.
The way that they convey space, it really, I think they say at the beginning of the movie, it's like a 9-mile journey.
Yeah. So do we want to set it up a little bit?
Yeah. So of course, 1917 takes place during the First World War. It is from the perspective of the British Army, two young corporals. They are tasked with the duty of delivering a message to the front line of another
brigade or troop.
They are about to launch an attack on the German forces because they have retreated about 9 miles off their front. So they're going in head first, thinking that they're like pulling back because they're weakened, but then they get news that this has been a plan. It's a big trap, and they're just walking right into it.
Which is such a great setup. And what I really liked is you get a little character insight and development to the two lead soldiers, but they set that plot up in like the first 4 minutes of that movie.
It was extremely pointed, but it was super well done. Because they set you up with the feeling of like no nonsense, like
you're in the trenches.
It's war. You start off literally in the trenches of these dugouts, and they take you in, and one of the main character's brother is in his older brother is in the other brigade, the other troop of soldiers that's about to launch its attack. So,
Right.
it becomes even more personal now that like he's been chosen for this mission. He brought along this guy, and he was chosen for it. He brought along he picked this other guy just because they were close by, and I guess they were, had gotten to know each other a little bit.
Yeah, they didn't know. The other guy didn't know what he was getting dragged in for. He thought they might have been cleaning out latrines, but his buddy says, "Hey, we got asked to do something. Come along with me." Next thing they know, they're in the trenches, and they're in their commander's fucking office, I guess, and not much of an office, but they're being told they have to save the dude's brother and his troop, and they have to go alone on foot 9 miles through no man's land and the enemy's territory to warn this troop of 1,600 men that if they don't reach in time by the morning, are likely all going to be slaughtered. And it's like they set it up and then it's immediately off to the fucking races. This dude has to save his brother, and him and his friend are going, and it's just like such high tension right away. I was really impressed by that.
So here's a question for you. First, before we go any further, how are we doing? Are we just gonna do spoilers, or is this gonna be?
I thought about that too, and I kind of feel like
because I think we can do it without too much. Or I mean, I'm down. I don't give a fuck. We'll give spoilers.
Yeah, I feel like fuck it. We should give this is the spoiler warning now. Nothing major's been given away, but
definitely
we're gonna talk.
Fucking watch the movie. Come back.
Yeah, for sure.
It's worth it. The scenes just after they get their orders and they're going through the trenches where they're, just all the different people that they're passing by, just like, so many fucking people crammed into this small space. Some of them are walking the other way. Some of them are, just, trying to get rest or, eat or whatever.
You're going up the down trench.
They're fucking, they're dirtied and wounded, and, you really, it sets the scene so hard.
Yeah. And it's bleak, but beautiful. And one of the comments that somebody I was watching it with, one of the first things they were paying attention to was the construction of the trenches.
Yeah. I
thought that was interesting because we see how that changes as they get into the enemy's territory.
Yeah. It was very elaborate too. Mm-hmm. I mean, I figured that, of course, there's protocols in place and the way that they do this, and, war's not anything new. So there's tried and true ways of doing shit. But I was surprised at how well constructed a lot of the stuff was. And I'm sure it's, based on accuracy.
Yeah. But kind of compared to a lot of other war movies, they really showed like how dirty war is, and they didn't really focus on like the honor aspect of it all. It was more of a grim, real look of what war can be like.
I would argue, if anything, they downplayed the honor part of it. He definitely talked about the one character talked about his medals, and he traded his medal away for a bottle of wine because he was thirsty. He's like, it's just a piece of tin. It doesn't change anything. And of course the other guy's like, of course it means something. I would have taken it home to my parents, like to take it home to your family to give. And one of the characters even says, like, I don't like going home because I know I have to come back.
Right.
He's like, it's easier just to stay here. That kind of stuff. And I will circle back to that thought later, because by the end, I feel like it's not addressed, but I feel like there's a change.
Yeah.
In his heart. Just absolutely. When they leave the trenches, I love the guy that gives them directions. I forget if what his title was.
He was Mordecai or whatever, the villain in the Sherlock show.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
And then Sherlock is later a character.
Yeah.
Mordecai or whatever. He's a great little weird actor.
To specify, Sherlock Holmes is not a character in it. Benedict Cumberbatch plays a character.
I thought he was playing Sherlock.
Major Sherlock.
Yeah, and he leads them into no man's land. So they're leaving the trenches. They're still kind of at the start of their journey, and they're going into no man's land. And they have to climb out of the trenches, and they're expecting to be sniped off any second. And they're climbing through the barbed wire. One of the lead characters cuts open his hand right away, and then slides down a mud pit and puts his hand through a dead German body.
Yeah,
I thought, damn, we're off to a brutal start.
I love the instructions that the guy gives them before they leave. And he's like, you're going to go to the right of the dead horse, and then you go up, past this way, and there's
the bowing man.
The bowing chap, and then you go past him, and, there's a little wire, path between the wire fence, and he gives him the flare. He says, I hate losing these to the Huns. If you're in trouble, make sure you throw it back to us.
Now,
damn.
I figured you might know this, and I had been meaning to ask. When they said Huns there, were they referring to Hungarian? Were they calling the Germans
so, yeah.
Huns?
Yeah.
But is Hungarian at that time, is that, short for German?
I think it was a derogatory slur to all Eastern Europeans.
That's what I figured, but I wasn't quite sure if there was an aspect I was missing there.
Yeah, I think that was the intention. I don't know for certain, but I feel like that was the intent.
Yeah, so they really set it up so gritty right away. And then they're going through no man's land, and then they get to the German
their front line, their old front line.
They get to the German trenches. Sorry, I forgot the word fucking trench right now.
Yeah, it's all right.
And the Germans' trenches were so much better constructed. And they're immediately realized that at first they're just glad that the Germans, in fact, were not there and they weren't going to be immediately killed. But they start realizing that, there's the remnants of a fire and that they had just left. They start seeing that their barracks were so much better built. So many more men were there. Their ammo and supplies. Right, they had beds. And you can just tell by looking, the trenches are so much deeper and more fortified. And these two soldiers are immediately like, fuck, even the rats are bigger here.
Yeah. They're searching for food and, whatever they can get their hands on. I liked how it's like they almost did like a Chekhov's gun with the rat, because he almost killed it, or he was almost attacked it, and they left it alone, and then just moments later they find the tripwire, and
this panda bear of a rat sets off a tripwire. Fucking about kills them both. The trenches are collapsing. They did that really well too.
Yeah, it was super well put together. Even so one of the guys, he's in the ground, they pull him out, and the dust that comes out of his mouth.
Yeah.
When he wakes him up, I thought that was really well done.
Yeah.
I'm sure that probably sucked, because he definitely just had to have some shit in his mouth that he and it was holding it there.
Eat a bunch of crunch up a bunch of Tums and puff them out.
Here's a Nature Valley bar, granola bar. The same thing.
So they get through the German trenches, right? And then they're kind of like in the wilderness.
It's still open enough, and that's but it's just on the other side of it, of
Yeah.
the trenches there. But they come across that's like a barn, a home and a barn.
Yes.
Um, and
That was cool. They did.
yeah,
That was fun.
the way they went through their operating procedure of like, you go around front, I'll go around back, and the way they shot that was really good.
Yeah, they realized, and they had seen it earlier, but there's a dogfight in the sky of these friendly and enemy planes,
and this is where it takes a wild turn.
dude, quick, man. Like,
This is like what, like 30 minutes into the movie?
Yeah,
into a 2-hour movie,
and it was cool because they're watching these planes, and at this point, the lead character is really the soldier whose brother is in the troop they're trying to save. Yeah. Like, his buddy is kind of pissed with that he has to go with them because they very well may die. But it's really like the lead character is the guy whose brother they want to save.
I feel like for sure they're both realizing this is a suicide mission.
Yeah, but then the dogfight in the sky, one of the German planes gets shot down, and how the shot was, this plane looks like it's going into a hill, and then it turns, the plane rises above this hilltop and about max them inside of this barn, and it's just like instant flames. Do you want to go for it?
Yeah, so they both survive the plane, the plane crashing into the barn. They get away in time, and they go through the effort of pull the German soldier out of the plane because they can hear him screaming, for his life. They pull him out to safety because, of course, the plane's on fire and he's like locked in. He could die.
Yeah, they save this burning Nazi.
Saved
him.
Get
him out.
The one guy almost kills him like instantly once they get him out, and the main character is like, no, don't, he's fine, he's not doing anything.
Let's get him some water. It's
fine. That's right. Yeah, get him some water. He needs water. As he's getting him water, the German stabs the main character right in the gut.
And then the other dude instantly kills the Nazi.
Yeah.
Fires on him. But then you're like, holy fuck, this dude now, like, you're thinking like, now he has to make this incredibly difficult mission with a stab wound in his gut. And I
would like to interject. In 1917, they were not Nazis yet. Nazis were World War II.
You're right.
I mean, they were definitely aiming for control in Europe, but
right, it wasn't
Nazi party hadn't.
The political party of the Nazis wasn't fully formed.
Right.
So what did they call them? Did they just call them like slurs like the Huns? Or did they just call them the Germans?
The Germans.
Gotcha. So for me at that point, the lead character is stabbed, and I'm thinking of like how difficult it's going to be for him to survive. And then it like slowly sets in more and more. There's no way he's going to live. Our lead character is dead. And it was so good.
The makeup they used on Homeboy, I'm not sure when it was applied.
Yeah, he went white.
I want to watch it again and figure out, but you can see as he's like obviously losing blood quickly, his whole face is white and his eyes are kind of gaunt, and it's just super like a... I'm like, oh man, I thought for sure, like, okay, I guess he's gonna like carry him, and then they show him like trying to pick him up, and it's like, no, that's a fully grown man with this, all his gear on and shit. There's no fucking way he's gonna carry him 9 miles. Yeah.
And then it's this weird moment of like of transference of energy. Like, our lead character is dead, and we have to watch this reluctant soldier who had given away his medals for wine become the lead character to step up and save his dead comrade's brother. And that was a powerful, like, you felt that change.
Absolutely. Yeah. The reluctance of it, was such the powerful word, because you can see him go through the emotions of it,
Yeah.
of first of like, this, my comrade's dead, my friend's dead, and then realizing like, I still have to do this though. If
Yeah.
anything, he now feels more compelled to do it,
It's all
because
on
he has
him.
a purpose of, I have to, get this information to his brother and then write to his mom, and I have to do all this. So,
And what I also found interesting in retrospect was like at the same time in the movie that the plot is totally reliant on him delivering this message. It's all just on him, that soldier now. The rest of the movie, while there are other characters, the success or failure of this movie is entirely on that actor now.
oh
Like
yeah,
he just how it was written, he had to hold the rest of the movie. If he was garbage, the movie would have been garbage. It was
right.
just he did so well at taking us through the rest of this journey. And
Even just facial expressions,
yeah, because
the
it's not a lot of
the
dialogue.
the trepidation in his voice when he did speak. It's the little things like that we fucking nailed it.
Yeah,
In in a setting where you're shooting these long uncut scenes, like, you can't beef that.
no.
So
I
yeah.
wonder. I'd imagine the whole production for this film had to have been so complicated. Like
Oh,
these
absolutely.
such technical shots, such planning, dealing with the time of day, when your shots are, how you hide your cuts. It had to have been such a difficult and well planned production.
To say to get those, the really steady kind of camera, the sweeping shots and stuff. Usually they use like tracks and stuff that they put the camera on.
Yeah,
But in that terrain, and like it moving forward, like you can see there's no tracks there. It's like,
right.
so like they had to have like, almost had to have had like, big off-road wheels on like a moving track kind of thing, or a moving, steady cam kind of setup. Like, I had no idea. I'd like to love to look into behind the scenes on that.
Yeah, I have some background with that kind of stuff, but I would love to watch, like you said, a video of their production, because I don't know how they could do some of that so well. I mean, Steadicam and different things like that have gotten so much better, but it just was so smooth. So that at this point, our lead actor is I don't know him from anything else. I
I
recognize him, George
Yeah,
McKay.
yeah. I don't think I've seen him in anything else either.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, from that point, I want to jump ahead.
Okay. Yeah, because they're just
The,
going through more German territory. It's
every moment is categorized and cataloged. I mean, there's so many,
it's
just tense, whether it's conversations with other, soldiers, or, he does end up running into other, British soldiers, but he's on his own again. And we mentioned earlier, the craziest part, the part that I really loved and I, kind of took away from this movie was, there's a scene where he's getting shot at, where he's trying to cross a bridge, and he gets to the other side of the bridge, hunkers down, and he's realizes he's being shot at from like a church. It looked like, or
it looked like some sort of chapel, and
yeah,
this
second story
sniper
window.
is in the tower, or yeah, at least the highest window, and he's firing shots back and makes his, like, up to this point in the movie, like he made it through the trenches and now he's traveled through these towns, he's lost his partner, and it's all like so intensely thrilling, but it's like it's plot development. He's just getting through this journey, and then this point with the tower he's going up against the sniper is like a crucial turning point in the rest of the film. And it's daylight at this point, and I think that's important to note. So
yeah, it's still morning-ish for them. Like they're expecting like this should take, shouldn't take more than several hours. We'll get there.
I think it might have been afternoon, but he had till the next morning.
Yeah.
So it was still at least early day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He puts out enough fire to get inside of the building.
Right.
And he's pretty sure he shot the guy because he stopped firing back. Gets up there and, gets into the room where the guy was, and they both shoot at each other. I couldn't tell if he was actually hit or he hit in like his armor or something, and he just fell backwards.
I think it hit his armor, but what I kind of thought they might have done is he had that tin of pictures, and I think his cigarettes and pictures. And he purposely always placed it over his heart. And I know he was wearing, some sort of other armor as well. And I think that's what they were kind of alluding to. But I did want to rewatch that scene because I feel like there was something going on there that I may have missed. He kills the German soldier in this the shootout, but in the process, he falls backwards down a flight of stairs in this church. And
cracks his fucking head open.
Crack. And cut. And it's like the first big cut. Or it's not a cut, it's a fade to black kind of deal. And oh man, I'm so excited. That was so important, dude. Like, that the movie changes from day to night, and it is an intense, gloryful cinematic moment that changes the rest of the movie.
Yeah,
I'll give it to you.
They gave The Shift so much love, and because it really does, it changes. I think it plays on a lot of psychology of the evil things come out at night kind of thing. Before they were saying it's nighttime, the Germans can't see you, you should travel at night. They were worried about traveling during the day,
right?
And they did have issues, but boy. When he does come to and he realizes it's dark outside and it's way later than it was when he passed out, he's got a lot of ground to cover and not a lot of time to do it. The camera angle at this point, it goes into the room where the German soldier was sitting when he shot him, and the lighting that is used is flares shooting across the sky.
Pitch black night sky with these soaring flares above head, and you just see the shadows change angles, and it's
fucking beautiful. And then as it goes outside the window, you see these ruins, these what once were buildings and brick and mortar setups. There's just it's almost like monoliths of these of light as the flares go across the sky. And in my head I'm remembering that there was music there, but I might have just because I was also thinking this would make a great metal video.
Well, we didn't even, there's just so much to talk about this. We even kind of skipped out on the soundtrack aspects, and there was a lot of it at the beginning when they were entering the no man's land from the trenches, and then during this dramatic transition in the movie, this music comes up real big again, and I really would like to listen to it some more, but it's definitely atmospheric music. It's not a specific song soundtrack kind of deal. It's mood music, and it is heavy and intense and foreboding. Because at this point, basically, I'm not quite sure. The ruins are illuminated by these flares, and he's injured, and he basically is realizing, that the Germans are reclaiming this part of the town, and he just awoken during basically like an enemy invasion.
Yeah.
And it's just like instant intensity.
Yeah, he's just running, and he's getting, shot at, and he can't see from where, and it's fucking all over the place. And yeah, he's trying to duck for cover when he can, but it's just the intensity that you have in that feeling, in that moment of watching him go through that, and you're like, fuck any of these. And like sometimes it would cut and like look behind him a little bit, and like you can see a guy pop around the corner, and you're like, fuck. It's like he's got a good line of sight, and like he can't just stop and turn around and whatever. He's just running. He's just going for it.
Yeah, it is more thrilling than pretty much any movie I can think of. The moments of high intensity in this film were just so thrilling. Like, even if you don't give a shit about history, war movies, whatever, like, if you walked in on these scenes, you're just going to be like, what the fuck? I got to see if this dude survives. You're right there with him.
Now, I will say, I feel like this would be a good place to cut off from the plot.
I agree.
Because, yeah, I think some people can still go watch it, and we've left enough that, there's
I
not
do
gonna
think
be...
I have to note the burning church, though.
Yeah.
That particular shot, it's like at the same kind of point. He's fleeing shots, and he runs into this burning church from the German invasion, and it is just it's just so beautiful. Those moments, like, even if I didn't care about the plot at all, it just, they looked so beautiful. It was like like you said, they were beautiful monoliths of just something that I felt lucky to see on film.
It wasn't even just something to be pretty or showy. It was like, it was the light source, you know, and it was super well done. And, if you listen to our last episode, you know exactly how we feel about burning churches.
Yes. Very positive.
I think there's so much they did, especially, during the night scenes with the light play and the stuff like that, like you said, the moving of shadows and stuff that just increases that intensity of getting your heart pumping. And I watched this, at night while I was like in bed, and I realized there's no way I'm going to fall asleep now. There's no way I'm going to fall. I kind of worried.
That's kind of what I was saying. I was like, I don't want to.
I realized, I fell asleep like almost directly afterward, but I knew for sure there was no way I was going to fall asleep during this movie. I was worried about it at first because I thought, man, I don't want to start it and then fuck up, and then because I'm going to want to watch it again from the beginning, and and I want to watch it again from the beginning anyways. I definitely want to watch it again and look for, other details of shit. Like, I definitely didn't pay enough attention, I think, to the soundtrack at all. I was so taken away by the cinematography, and the acting and the plot. There was so much going on there that I don't think the soundtrack even registered. Maybe subconsciously it did.
Right. Definitely.
I'm sure it increased the effectiveness of the scenes, but it was not the main focus that I had.
Right. Yes. So I agree with you. We'll kind of switch off from the plot. I don't think we need to even. Oh, you hear that train going in the background?
Oh yeah, boy!
Dude, the trains they're the whales of the city. I really think of them that way. They make me like I only want to live in places I can hear a train in the distance.
Yeah, just enough in the distance. Yeah,
those little city whales.
The city whales. I used to live one of my apartments here. I was somewhat near a train, and you couldn't hear it if you were on the ground, but I was high enough that the sound waves carried. Sometimes I could hear it. It was fun, but now I'm too far away from the track here.
It's so soothing. It's the worst if you live right next to a track, but
absolutely, fucking lootly. one of my friends actually just moved into an apartment that's like maybe a block away from the track.
That's rough.
Yeah, it's like in a major, area here, so it fucking definitely is laying on the horn as it's going through.
Yeah, it's like you think it might not be that bad, and then if you live there, it's like bad.
Yeah.
So, I don't think we need to speak how the movie concludes. I do think it is worth mentioning that if anything, this movie kind of spoke to both just the overall damage of war, and it definitely was about this the power of love between brothers and like friends, soldiers. Like it definitely had a lot of that, but I think it was more showing just like how bad the human race can be to each other. I don't know.
I got that too, because I mean, I think a main point that the movie made was, it's they're kids. There's a scene where he reunites with a bunch of other British soldiers, and they kind of pan around and they show their faces, and you're like, they're just young people.
Yeah.
They're just out here to die. And
I do think they kind of avoided it being like, it wasn't like a bummer movie though. Like it was so high adrenaline. Like I feel like it spoke about those things without like preaching.
It was able to be, tragic in that way without being, like you said, a bummer.
Yeah, like I didn't. If anything, this movie gave me more energy than it took away. Yeah.
If nothing else, it definitely gave me the energy after, like, that was good as fuck. I texted you immediately after, like, that was a good-ass movie. Fuck yeah.
Dude, I got another one for you that is one of my favorite war movies called Anthropod. And it's, I believe it came out in 2016. And it was like, I believe it was a lower budget. Like it has some major actors in it, but it didn't get like a big hype when it came out. I think it was more like of an artsy movie than a like blockbuster kind of deal.
Mm-hmm.
But it tells this true story of this like group of, this was during World War II, so it was a group of it wasn't just Jewish soldiers, but it was soldiers from, mainly Jews, and soldiers from other countries that the Nazis had ravaged. And they are sneaking into enemy territory, and they end up hiding out at this church. And like an entire Nazi brigade sieges this church, and it's like 6 men just holding off an entire Nazi army for like a day. And it's just the story of them. Like they know they're going to die no matter what. And it is just so brutal, and it's all true. And it's to me it's one of the more inspiring movies I had seen in a while. Definitely worth checking out. Anthropod.
That's what they based Call of Duty Black Ops, the Nazi zombies on.
Oh. Dude, that's funny.
You hold up and you see what you could do, man. You gotta hold them all off.
Yeah.
Just keep coming.
Dude, the new Call of Duty looks goofy. You got Ronald Reagan telling you to commit war crimes, and
listen, if I can play, I'll spend the $60 on it, or however much. I'm sure it's more I'm sure like the ultimate editions or whatever. They're probably like $100 or whatever. But I'll spend that kind of money on it if I can play as Ronald Reagan.
Oh my god!
Just run train on a map with Ronald Reagan.
That has to exist at this point. I'm sure it does. God, that sounds so much fun.
You can get a Ronald Reagan mask in Payday.
Yeah.
They got all the presents, not all the presents, but I think I think Reagan Forward. They got a
Yeah.
bunch of them there.
Did you? I forget the name of this movie, but I think you'll know it. I think it's called. It's Full Metal something. It's not the
Jacket?
full. No, it's not that one. It's a Japanese.
Alchemist.
No, it's kind of if you mix Full Metal Jacket with Full Metal Alchemist. I'm mostly joking, but it is a Japanese movie, maybe made during the 90s, and it's like just
Panic?
like no, it's these Japanese bank robbers that are wearing president's masks the whole time, and it's like the funnest like heist thriller from that era, in my opinion. Super brutal. I don't know why I was thinking Reagan masks.
I don't know. We should definitely spend some time talking about Full Metal Alchemist sometime. I like that series a lot. I haven't watched it in a while, and I want to watch it again now. But that's another time.
Sure.
You know, talking about the director Sam Mendes.
Yeah. I'll let you go.
Hadn't actually heard his name before, at least not that I could remember, until I saw it at the end of this movie, and then I realized after looking it up here that I'm a fan of little decent chunk of his work. He does. He's known for a lot of his stage directing and screenwriting, but he did American Beauty. Which I have not seen, but I know that it is one of the more well-known movies.
Yeah, I want to watch that one because that was his debut film, and has Kevin Spacey, who is outstanding. Apparently a shitty person, but does outstanding work. I want to see that one.
But of course he directed Skyfall and Spectre of the 007 series.
Yeah. And when I saw the trailers for 1917, it was weird. I thought it was weird that they had directed by Sam Mendes Skyfall, and I'm like, that made me very skeptical. I was like, I don't know about that. And then you were filling me in that he did Spectre as well right after the next James Bond, and I thought it was kind of weird that they would choose which James Bond film to put. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it was, like we were talking about. I think the Skyfall made more money. I'm not sure that it was more popular so much, but I guess it did. It made a little bit more money than Spectre did, which is sad because I really like Spectre a lot.
I know I watched that one, but that's the one I can't remember. Skyfall, when it came out, like, I'm not big on James Bond movies, but I definitely like watching them for fun. Like, they're goofy, but they're always fun. And Skyfall, I remember being like kind of impressed that they were, I don't know, that this reboot or generation of James Bond was at least going to be kind of interesting. And I remember Skyfall because of the intro, but I can't remember Spectre like at all.
First and foremost, when we get into Bond movies, and this is the next topic that we wanted to get into and talk about, but for sure, we were planning on going off onto this tangent. The Bond movies in general have been a favorite of mine, especially for the last like 3 years or so. But for most of my life, I've known enough of them. The Brosnan movies I always liked a lot. Those were the ones that were, current when I was young. So that was, the ones I attached myself to, especially The World Is Not Enough. I got a VHS tape of World Is Not Enough when I was really young as a gift.
Dude, GoldenEye on 64.
Yeah, that was, so I got it from my uncle who had GoldenEye. I didn't have GoldenEye when I was young, but he did. And whenever I went over to their house, we played together. Yeah. And then he got the World Was Not Enough on N64, and we played that.
Hell yeah.
So he got me the movie for it so I could watch it. So those ones, that's kind of started the love for it. A couple years ago, I tore my hamstring up and fucked my SI up, and I, couldn't work, and I was basically laid out for a couple months. So I decided to watch all the Bond movies, and it was
That's a good way to.
It was
to get
such
through
a
some
good
healing.
idea.
Yeah.
I'd seen some of the Daniel Craig movies before, but I was younger. And I think Skyfall was the first one I watched, because it was just after high school, and I was like watching it on a plane or something. And I remember thinking that it got so much more into his feelings as a man than I wanted to see from a Bond movie than I was used to. So that turned me off of the Daniel Craig movies for a minute. But after watching them, after growing up a little bit, I realized that those are some of my favorites now too. I mean, definitely the Brosnan ones hold a special place in my heart. Connery's the original, but I love the production and the plot lines are so much more deep. Definitely the art is much crazier. I would say probably 60 to 70% of the Roger Moore movies, or I think that's his name. I always botch that. They're trash. I think Timothy Dalton was one of the ones. He had like one or two. He was also trash. They just got so goofy for a while, and I didn't like it. So some of the Connery ones were so, they're goofy, but it's still like an action movie, and it's suave, but then they just got so fucking off the rails that it just wasn't. They weren't as fun to watch anymore.
I always loved the crazy gadgets. I couldn't believe how cheap. Like in my mind, I remembered those older James Bonds being like more suave and smooth, and then I'm rewatching them, and the intro theme musics for like Die Another Day, I think we were talking about, is just like the worst graphic rendering. I could not believe it was real. It looked like an 80s like visualizer for music, like on Windows Media Player, like a bad acid trip. It was just like so bad and so funny. And then like all the gadgets were like just so much more comical than I remember. Like I got like so hyped by like the bad cheesiness that I was like all in. Like, you know what I mean? So much fun.
I know they definitely went up and down between their production value based on like funding that they just could or couldn't get.
Yeah.
And
now they're all major funding.
Yeah, the things that they could do with the movies, because they cost so much, because they do crazy shit like fucking cutting cars in half with, I think it was actually fucking Jesus, The World Is Not Enough. I think there was that movie that they cut a BMW in half with a chainsaw that's being held by a helicopter that's like for like trimming trees in the forest and shit.
I think I remember that because at the time that was like one of the most expensive like movie costs to just destroy a car for.
Oh yeah,
the look of it, like that was a big deal. I think
they keep getting more and more expensive.
So, what's your favorite new one? Like, do you like the one Sam Mendes did most? Or?
I do. Of the like, I think it's 4 or 5 Daniel Craig ones.
Yeah,
he's got 5 of them. Skyfall and Spectre are definitely my 2 favorites. Spectre in particular is my favorite.
I did like Casino Royale.
Casino Royale wasn't bad either. I think Quantum of Solace and Skyfall, I mean, they're also good, but they weren't my favorite of the Craig ones. Let me make sure I got that. Yeah, Roger Moore. I did have that right. Yeah, he
Nice.
was trash. And the other one was George Lazenby, Honor Majesty's Secret Service. That movie fucking sucks.
Who do you think's gonna be next Bond?
Oh man, I don't know. I was really here. Let me. I need to. I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to get out in front of this. When the rumors, yeah, I can get into it with the Bond shit. I am so disappointed with so many people in the Bond, fandom, because when they announced that Idris Elba might be the next Bond, I was so excited for it. I love him as an actor.
I thought that would be pretty cool too, man. He's outstanding.
He does serious really well. He delivers comedy really well. He's definitely, really attractive and suave. Like he can pull that off, no problem. He's got, he's British, he could definitely nail that. So it made me so mad when he got so much hate over it and everyone threw a big fit because he's black. And it's like, that has nothing, it doesn't matter because it's played by so many different characters now. And they act so different. Like he could nail, exactly what you want to see in a Bond movie because he got the character.
And it's all like
Bond.
The Bond is an anonymous spy character. Like who gives a fuck? Like get the fuck out of here.
And there's the story where there are some people that try to cover the that it's a different person each time because it's it's just a code name for any given spy that takes that job.
Right.
But the main plot line of it, and which I do want to get into a little bit, is that it's just one person that's been doing it the whole time. It's one character, if you will. But it's it made me really mad. And of course, as he should have, he was like, nope, never mind. I'm not even interested anymore. Which,
is that what happened?
Yeah, a bunch of people got all pissed off about it, and they were like, no, like this, and they threw up, up in arms about it. And he was like, you know what? Never mind. I don't even want it. I don't even want to get involved with that shit. Fuck that. Fuck all y'all.
Good for him. Because I think didn't it like all start because some like a random tweet on Twitter, like somebody suggested it would be a cool idea, and then it just like took off on the internet.
I feel like that was right. Yeah. I'm not even sure if it was a thing that people were, was serious about. I know that at one point he was being considered for it, or he was looking forward to being considered for it. Yeah. And then he was like, no, never mind. Which is a shame.
If you ever watched any of the stuff of the guy, I think it's a Sir something, the guy that wrote James Bond.
Sir
Arthur.
Damn it! What is his fucking name?
Is it Conan Doyle? Is it that dude?
No, Ian Fleming.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who the fuck is Sir Arthur Conan Doyle?
I don't know.
Why did I think of that?
Arthur. I think he is an actor, or he's a writer. I mean.
Okay, what the fuck did he write?
Why
is he in my head? Sherlock Holmes.
Did he do Sherlock Holmes?
Yeah.
All right, I was thinking of Lost World, I think.
At least I wasn't so far off. But there's a couple documentaries on Fleming because he actually was a British intelligence officer. He never was in the field or anything, but he basically would hear all these stories at work of these thriller spy things, like real world things that he couldn't ever speak about, and he was always inspired, and I think he was a little jealous. But I think there's two different documentaries on him because he later in life, after retiring, I believe he like moved to some island like in Hawaii or Mexico or some shit, and he became like a hardcore alcoholic / addict, I believe. I may be wrong, but I think he was doing like a lot of speed and drinking like very heavily, and he would just sit at his typewriter and bang out James Bond scripts.
Yeah, I've definitely heard a lot of controversial things about Ian Fleming,
Yeah.
and about like the actual his writing versus the, the stories. And he hadn't actually written anything since. I mean, he died in 64, 64.
Yeah.
So there's so many of the stories that were like based on the movies. I mean, were based on his stories, but not directly the same, or they're kind of loosely based on that with some of the characters of excuse me, of other books that were other people had written.
Yeah. And
There
I
were
think
eight other authors that wrote Bond novels.
right. And I think we would be remiss if we didn't mention Ian Fleming also was the one who wrote the children's story Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
No shit, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and it's funny cuz like Chitty Chitty Bang Bang like it was like a kids movie. Like I don't know if Disney actually did that, but it was like a real soft kids movie, right? But that book, like even if you look at the original cover, it's a spy movie. That car was like a prototype for like a James Bond vehicle. Like it was a plane with guns and all these gadgets and shit. And it didn't sing. It was like a spy vehicle kind of thing. And it somehow turned into a kids movie.
That's pretty fucking funny.
Yeah.
So like I said, one of the things that I like about the Bond series is the deep lore that they don't address in all movies, and they take a break from. They address some of it in some of the Connery movies, and they make references to it throughout. The Roger Moore era. I think they did in one of the Timothy Dalton movies. They made a reference to Blofeld, but it built the trope that, like, of course, Austin Powers and shit was what was his name? Dr. Evil, was based on a character in the Bond series known as Blofeld, and he. Well, he's the guy with the scar and the cat, that he's petting, and he shows up in several of the movies, just either just as a quick like cutaway, or like giving someone direction, or goofy shit like that, but it doesn't always like last very long. It's always like sometimes like a little different showing of like his character and what he looks like. So it wasn't always zoned in upon, but there are different representations of him. But there's the organization of Spectre. Spectre is he's got his number one and his number two, or he is number one. His number two was Lasco, I think was his name. But he's the one that is in Thunderball. In Thunderball, he's got the sharks with the mind control on him to make him more aggressive and shit.
I don't even think I've heard that title.
Thunderball?
I don't think I've ever even heard of that one.
I think that was like the third or fourth one.
Okay, so
that was Connery. Yeah.
Okay.
And they, like I said, they kind of break into it a little bit with the Sean Connery movies, and a little bit more throughout the Roger Moore ones. But the Daniel Craig movies really get back to it, and especially in Inspector, they bring that back, and they reveal a lot of the deep lore where who Blofeld is, and I'm not sure if it's meant to be this way in the books, or if it was written, the details were written after, of like the origin of Blofeld and where he comes from, and like of Spectre as an organization. But it basically goes in to say like all these different things that happened in James Bond's life of like, there's one of the movies where he gets married and decides to like retire. But Blofeld and his crew like shoot up his car and like kill his wife. And, stuff like that like they make references to, like, all those things happen. I set that up. And like Blofeld comes out and he's the antagonist of the movie. And I think he's supposed to be the antagonist of the new one that's supposed to come out next April too.
I wonder if that's still on track.
Well, it was supposed to come out this month, but they just
yeah.
pushed it back again to April. It was actually supposed to come out originally April earlier this year.
Yeah, now I remember that. And
But the COVID.
And that's interesting because that means they have it fully filmed and they just don't want it to come out during a bad selling time.
Right.
That's kind of interesting. It's probably smart.
Well, actually, I think they said production didn't happen because of COVID, so they didn't actually have it completely like fucked with yet. And maybe they might have been filming overseas or something where it took a hold sooner than that.
They must have been close though.
Yeah,
because they pushed it back a little bit initially, and then they pushed it back a year. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Did you see that article I sent you?
I did see that it was there. I hadn't looked at it.
It's a pretty cool one. I love this fucking website, Boing Boing. But in 1964, a British diplomat arrived in the capital of Poland, then vanished, thwarting the minders ordered to shadow his every movement. His name was Bond, James Bond. So this article is basically that recently declassified documents show that there was an actual MI6 agent in the 60s named James Bond, and that it could be possible that Ian Fleming based the character off a real agent named James Bond. And some people actually knew this James, and they think maybe that Fleming just used his name and didn't really know much about him, but that there's at least some basis of truth for the character. I think that's interesting.
Mm. Yeah, that is interesting. I didn't realize that.
He used to smoke a pipe, had a fisherman's cap. He was a totally laid-back person. He had one passion in his life, which was golf, which he wasn't very good at.
It also says he was very careful, but he liked to drink. He showed an interest in women, that they had that in his secret file. But his family says that he was not a womanizer.
Damn.
Which, James Bond is notoriously.
They had to make that clear.
Yeah.
Dude, I could not believe watching some of the older ones. Like, he fucks like 2/3 of every woman character. Any female in the movie, it's like 2/3 of. Like, I couldn't believe it was like his psychiatrist, his nurse. It's like,
yeah, exactly.
It's just like one after the. I was like, how did they get away with doing this?
And like, definitely in the Connery ones were they just overt shit.
And some of it's funny, but some of it's hard to watch. And with the Daniel Craig ones, at least it's like there might be like one love interest romance thing per movie.
Yeah, exactly.
And it feels more, I don't know, just not so ridiculous.
Now, with that, I do want to say, like, of course, there's always the tension between Bond and Moneypenny. Like, I love those characters. I love M and Q and Moneypenny as, just
Moneypenny.
That they're always different, not always different, but there's, the cycling of different people in between those roles. Yet the chemistry's still the same, especially, Q was, the gentleman, I forget his name, but his last film with them was The World Is Not Enough, I think. And he had been Q from the very beginning, if I'm right about that. But he and then even that transition was really smooth and good. The new guy took over no problem.
But didn't Q become a woman? What's her name?
No, that's M.
M. Okay.
Q is the quartermaster. He's the one that does all the gadgets and shit.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
M is the director.
I forget her name. She stayed as that role.
Is it Judi Dench?
That sounds right.
I think
she
that's
stayed as
right.
that role for like 2 generations of James Bond, didn't she?
She became M. I want to say while Brosnan was still Bond,
Right.
and she was killed off. She was killed off in Skyfall.
Right. Now I remember.
So she definitely went a couple decades.
Yeah, man. Skyfall, I liked. That's probably my favorite. Just because, and it was cool, like, with perspective now to realize that, Sam Mendes directed Skyfall, and then all these years later would make 1917. But because Skyfall had a big influence on me, because that intro, I did realize I hate that song. I am not a fan of Liddell.
Okay. See, I of like pop artists, I like Adele.
Yeah,
Then I like the song.
I might like it more than a lot of other pop stuff, but I don't like the song. But the art for Skyfall's intro, so that was 2013, and at that time there wasn't like I was in school for graphic design and audio video production, and I was doing my own art, which is very graphic design and design based, and I loved video stuff, but at the time, like, there wasn't a lot of really cool motion graphic stuff, like the type of stuff we see in like every other music video today. Really cool text and design elements, 3D motion video work. There just wasn't nearly as much of that. And the intro for Skyfall, I just rewatched it, and it's not quite as great as I remembered, but it still was very influential because they did some cool things in that for the time that affected my artwork later. So just because of that alone, I'll always have a special fondness for Skyfall.
Yeah, I definitely feel like in the last, decade or so, the Daniel Craig movies in general have brought back I guess a renaissance of like the artwork being good for the Bond movies. The Brosnan years weren't so bad either, but I think in general the music and the art in the intros, it's always been like a characterization or a characterizing thing of the Bond series, and sometimes they got really goofy, and of course in like the 70s kind of the 60s and 70s really created the style that they go for, which is kind of like trippy, and of course girls and guns and cars and shit, but in that carries through, but they got as all the Bond movies kind of did, they just kind of got goofy through the the late 70s and 80s. It just wasn't fucking good anymore.
No, I think they're at a better place now.
Oh, absolutely.
So, if you had to choose between 1917 and Skyfall or Spectre, which would you pick?
Is this a movie that I'm just gonna like turn around and watch now, or I can only watch like if it's one of those like your Desert Island kind of style?
Desert Island style.
Desert Island, I would probably go Spectre, actually.
Would you?
Yeah, only because
I'd have to rewatch it before I can fully judge. But I know I would go 1917.
There's so much emotion, a stronger range, I guess, of emotion and comedy, and this is specifically Desert Island, scenario.
I know, like, I get why you're saying it.
Yeah. Also, there's a lot more women in it. There were notably none. There was one. There was one in 1917.
Yeah, that doesn't help. Yeah, I get what you mean. Desert island value, James Bonds have a lot more value probably than a intense war movie thriller. But man, I would struggle with that choice now. I feel like I would probably choose 1917 and then be upset like if I survived like a year. I would be on that island just watching it on repeat. Very sad.
Either way, you would end up going insane thinking that you were you worked for the government, you were in the military.
I had texted you after watching it. I said 1917 made me want to cry and go to war.
Yeah, exactly. That's the subtitle for this episode. The Trashcats will make you want to cry and go to war. Die in a war.
Oh, man. I never thought we would have a podcast talking about war movies and James Bond.
Not at all.
I'm loving it.
I just remembered this, and this is just a fun piece of trivia that I remembered. James Bond was, because we were talking about the military thing, I'm pretty sure James Bond was a Navy commander, I think, before he was imparted to the 00 program. And I think I remember that specifically from one of the movies where they're on board a submarine.
And he knows how to drive it.
Yeah, he's got to either take control of it, or they're talking about his, the hierarchy of who's on the submarine, and it's like he outranked somebody or something.
Oh my god!
I don't remember if that's actually what it was, or if I'm placing that in my head from learning lore shit. But it's just goofy little tidbit of information there.
That's funny, man.
Pierce Brosnan's 67 years old. Oh.
Is he?
Yeah, apparently. That's why he's in Mamma Mia.
Mamma Mia. Is there anything else we want to cover on either of them?
No, I think I'm good.
Cool.
I think I talked enough.
Yeah, I feel a little talked out. Do we want to do we want to talk about what we're going to do next episode and then change it and do something else?
Absolutely, yeah. Or maybe not. Doing? Maybe we'll mix it up. Next week is our kind of chill sesh week, so I think at least how I had that planned in my head was just like, we're just going to turn on the microphones and just talk shit to each other, and we're going to just see how it goes. And I think we'll have maybe a couple of things that we might want to talk about separately. It'll be like an extended edition of honorable mentions, maybe. Or,
that'll be cool.
Yeah,
just freestyle.
I might, maybe I had a really shitty week and I'll talk about it. Here is something I want to talk about. I got this Carolina Reaper pepper powder from Wilson Farms up here. Shout out to Wilson Farms. They got these good ass peppers.
Thanks for sponsoring us.
Yeah, thank you for sponsoring us, Wilson Farms. You can get them at the Royal Oak Farmers Market in Metro Detroit. During the summertime, I don't think they're operating during the wintertime. They're, growing them hothouse peppers, getting them ready for next season. But so they got like Reaper peppers, they had whatever, but they also take the peppers and they make powders out of them. I got Carolina Reaper pepper powder, and I put a little bit, just a little tiny little bit. It's just the end of a fork, a little tiny bit on a piece of chicken last night, and I ate it. And it's been sitting in my stomach and in my intestines, for the last 24 hours, and it's just slowly moving through and murdering me. It's just, the burning sensation is incredible.
Dude, that's so brutal. And that's like from such a small amount. That's incredible.
So that little jar is going to last me the rest of my life. I don't think I paid more than like $15 for it. It was so worth it though.
Man, I haven't had the Reaper. I've had ghost peppers, like a whole pepper, at
Oh
once.
no, I don't
That
think
was
I've ever
brutal.
eaten. I haven't whole eaten anything hotter than a habanero
Yeah,
because
that's
I just
probably
don't want to
smart.
go there. I've
Yeah,
had like the source extract shit, and I've had that before, and that's all a mistake. It's bad. You're not supposed to ingest shit like that straight. It's wrong.
yeah, dude.
If anyone
Yeah,
ever asks you to do the ghost pepper or the Carolina Reaper pepper challenge, you tell them to go fuck themselves. It's a
I
bad idea.
it is a bad idea for sure. I will say I don't regret having done it, like
That's
for
fair.
the experience factor. But I will say it ruins your fucking day, and there are repercussions.
If you do it, throw that shit up.
Yeah, I remember the day I did that. I know I definitely, man, I got really sick. But we also played hot potato with a taser gun, so it was a fun day overall. But you had reminded me with the peppers. Netflix has a new show, We Are the Champions. The first episode, each episode like features different champions of like a weird field. And the first episode is about the cheese wheel running, which if you are not familiar, that first episode will get you so fucking weak. I believe it's England, but these people just fucking roll down the steepest hill you've ever seen to catch a cheese wheel. And they've been doing it for hundreds and hundreds of years. It's hilarious. That's the first episode. But the second episode is about hot pepper eating competitions. And it's the world champions of like eating peppers. And like they have this competition by this Carolina Reaper grower who I guess is like a big deal. I think he's based in Texas or some shit. But like the last round of this competition, dude, like they probably at that point had ate like maybe like 20 Carolina Reapers. Each round of the competition, they go up to a hotter and hotter pepper. And by like, there are 13 rounds in this competition. By round 10, they're eating multiple Carolina Reapers at once. And it gets to the point like 4 of these pepper eaters won't give up. So they're using new Carolina Reaper hybrids that are still unranked by the Guinness World Records, but they know that they're hotter than regular Reapers. And they have like giant versions. And people are like, they've ate like 50 peppers already, and they're trying these new experimental peppers that are hotter than Reapers. Like, dying. And it is brutal. You'll get a kick out of it, especially like if you were to watch that tonight after this while you're still struggling with it.
I'm probably about to, because I just saw that it was it's narrated by Rainn Wilson.
Oh, I didn't catch that, Tim. Dude,
Yeah.
it's a fun one. The first 2 episodes are by far the best. The cheese wheel and the hot peppers, you'll get a kick out of for sure. It's good, chill one before bed kind of thing.
While I'm talking about Rainn Wilson, I'd like to say that I'm proud of the fact that I knew Rainn Wilson from House of a Thousand Corpses before I knew him from The Office.
Oh man, that's funny.
Not The Office had come out before. No, that's not true. I saw House of a Thousand Corpses in theaters. I was way too young to be in that movie theater. I don't know who the fuck, like, how I got out in there, but
see, I couldn't figure out. I knew him from House of a Thousand Corpses first, and then I couldn't tell if he actually was Dwight in The Office or not.
that's Dwight.
Like it took me like a while to like I thought it was a guy who just looked like him. I couldn't believe it was the same guy for a while.
Every time I watch House of a Thousand Corpses now, I picture his character just he's Dwight.
That's fucking hilarious.
It's really funny that way.
That's so funny.
All right, that's all I got. I'm done on tangents. We'll save that for next week.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
As always, shout out to your brother.
Yeah, Approaching Human on SoundCloud. He does our intro outro music. We'll share some links. We got stuff for our social media stuff. We'll be announcing those sooner than later, but we got stuff to go with the episodes. I have my social media on Instagram. I have my new art account. It is Skyzix, SKYZICX on Instagram. Just started that page up, and we got some people following, so that's been cool.
You've been blasting artwork through that.
Dude,
Every time I feel like I open Instagram, I see like another new thing from you. I'm like, fuck, dude. Have you been like saving up pieces, or are you just cranking them out?
Well, I try to like put up something every day, but like since I'm restarting an account, like I have, dude, my portfolio, and like I probably don't like a third of my work now, but I have like 500 pieces. Like I have at least 300 or 400, and even if I don't like a third of them, like I could post shit every day for a year.
Fuck yeah.
So I'm like trying to like hurry up and like repopulate this page to get some of my work there.
Yeah, true.
So I'm having fun with it though. It's always difficult going through old work, because like you'll like forget about things and be like both impressed with things you made and also like disappointed. Like you get like there's like a whole emotional
what the
aspect.
fuck was I thinking here? Why did I call this done?
Yeah, dude. And sometimes it's fun when you get a chance to remake something that didn't feel quite right at first. So I've been having fun with it.
Good.
So when we'll have our Trashcats, dude, I couldn't do that intro. I would fuck it up every time. But we'll have our social medias up soon.
I thought I nailed it last time until you pointed out that I did say the wrong name. Episode, but it's
so funny.
We're leave it. Fuck it.
Yeah, Easter eggs.
Easter eggs, boy. We'll have a compilation one day.
Oh, for sure. Well, I enjoyed talking about this with you, and I'm definitely looking forward to next time's freestyle. And I can't wait to talk about that other stuff we were talking about, the Truman Show and some
simulation theory shit.
Yeah, we're gonna have fun with that soon too. So
good shit coming.
Yep.
Signing off. Meow. Don't be a dick.
See you guys next time.
Bye. That one recorded, I know.
Yeah, I'm so glad we didn't stop recording. That's awesome. It'll be meow meow.